Welcome to the Player Position Podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kaser. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, Mary Lou Kaser here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Player Position Podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. And in this week's episode, I'm going to share with you a story about something that happened to me recently because it's so telling about some of the big shifts that are going on right now in our culture. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that is one of my favorite questions to ask guests. That question about what have you seen from your vantage point that has changed in the last few years, and what are the challenges and what are the positives that have come from that? So about a week ago, I had the opportunity to participate as a local author in a book signing event that was put on by an amazing woman named Trudy, who owns a furniture store here in the Beaverton/Portland, Oregon area. And what she does is every single month, she hosts what she calls a First Thursday. And first Thursday of every month, she will feature local artists from a particular theme. So, for example, she's had local photographers one month. She's had local fine artists another month. She's had local painters. June happened to be local author month. And a good friend of mine named David is very good friends with Trudy. And he played matchmaker and got me in touch with her. And the rest was history. And so I was, like I said, a featured author at this book signing event with 8 or 9 other local authors from around the state of Oregon. And I was in really good company. It was really great to meet some of these local authors, including a crime fiction writer and a man who absolutely is passionate and in love with Ireland, but is not Irish at all. And yet he writes about Ireland all the time. And then there was a gentleman who's written a memoir about his dog. And there was a great gal who wrote about being organized, how to be more organized. And overall, the evening was just a smashing success. There were a lot of people that came out to support the authors, to enjoy some food and wine, and to purchase books and get to know more about what we as authors are up to. So the book that I featured at this event is my book called Personal Branding Secrets for Beginners. And I've had it available digitally for the last 18 months or so. And it wasn't until this book signing event came into my radar that I realized I needed to turn that digital book into a physical version as well. So I did that, and it's now available alongside the digital version on Amazon. And if you or you know somebody who is looking to understand personal branding or is just new to this whole topic, it's a great place to start. So you can check out my Amazon page, and I'll have a link to that page. Actually, I do have a link to that page on my website right now. If you just go to maryloukaser.com, in the footer section, there's a link. Just click the picture of the book and it'll take you right there. What I wanted to focus on today are 2 big takeaways that I picked up on as a result of participating as a local author at a book signing. The first takeaway is that books are alive and well. People are reading more today than ever before. And I think there's some confusion or some misperceptions about books these days because we have really gone through a major shift in the way books are presented to us. Certainly you can buy the physical books, which remains the most popular way of consuming books, is actually buying a physical book. But the digital revolution has allowed us now to download multiple 500-page novels, if we so choose, onto one slender reader, whether it's an actual Kindle or it's a Nook from Barnes & Noble, or it's an e-reader on one of our tablets like the iPad or the Samsung Galaxy. Regardless of how people are choosing to consume books, people are reading, and they're reading a lot, which as a former English teacher is very, very encouraging to me. Another key thing that goes along those lines is that authors are now in this interesting position of making decisions related to how do we publish. Do we go the self-publishing route, which has really opened up in the last few years, particularly because of Amazon? Or do you go down the traditional path of seeking out an agent or finding an editor at one of the big publishing houses and getting your name into print that way. And I had the opportunity to talk to one of the authors that was at this book signing event, and he has gone both directions. He's actually had an agent and has had 2 books traditionally published. He decided he was going to do his most recent book, the self-publishing route. And the big insight that he shared with me is that there are positives and negatives to both. But ultimately, for the kind of writing that he's doing, he believes that the traditional publishing route makes more sense. He's also had one of his books optioned for film rights, and he believes that had he not gone the traditional publishing route, he might not have been able to get that deal. So that's something to think about. But as far as the nonfiction category goes, which is the category I fall into with my book on personal branding, this is an area where self-publishing really is the way to go. Not only is turnaround time super fast, you can have your manuscript formatted, uploaded, and available relatively quickly compared to sometimes the 1 or 2 years it may take to go the traditional route. But then you also get to control and monitor your sales. And for someone like me who likes to have an insider view of what's going on and not leave it up to chance or wonder if is someone doing their job 3,000 miles away in New York, I like to have control of my book sales. I like to be able to read my reports. I like to get that commission deposited directly into my bank account every month, which Amazon does without fail. And that to me is really, really cool. And I think a powerful testimony to why self-publishing really does make sense for certain people today. Now, the second big takeaway that I wanted to share, a key insight that this book signing afforded me, was that in general, the desire to write and publish books is as great today as it's ever been. And some of you listening today may be familiar with the statistic that says over 80% of the population says they want to write a book someday. That's a staggering number of people walking around with a book or multiple books in their heads. And I'm here to tell you that if you've got that drive, that dream, and you want to make it come to life, do it. There is nothing stopping you. The gatekeepers of yesterday are gone. You can write and get your book published in a matter of months now versus years. And again, for any listener who's really, really thinking about adding a book to your resume, definitely go for it. And what's exciting is that as a result of this particular event that I was at, as well as where my business has been taking me, I am putting together right now a really, really exciting retreat program that I'll be revealing details of later in the summer. But I'm just going to whet your appetite because this is going to be a pretty special event. It's going to be limited to a small group of people who are totally committed to getting a book out into the world. And it's going to be taught by me. And there'll be an opportunity for private writing time. There'll be an opportunity for some private coaching. And there'll be an opportunity for building a community of writers that can really make a difference between seeing a project to its final destination and leaving it at the back of a drawer collecting dust. And believe me, I have been in both of those scenarios where I've taken them into the end zone and I've crossed that goal line and scored a touchdown, but I've also multiple manuscripts that have collected inches of dust over the years because I either lost steam or it wasn't as important to me as something else was, and so forth and so on. Any excuse will do, right? That's the truth of the matter. So keep your ears and eyes open for more details about this. What I can tell you right now is that it's going to occur in the fall, most likely October, and it is going to take place in the absolutely stunning area of the country known as Oregon Wine Country. And I am so excited to share this particular event with the people that choose to partake in it because it is truly a magical spot. And if there ever was a place that was built by nature for writing and collaborating and creativity, Oregon Wine Country would be that place. So again, keep your eyes open, your ears open. I'll be posting things on my social feeds, on my Twitter account, and also on Facebook. So you can check those out. If you're not following me, by all means, connect with me online so you can keep up with what's going on. But this is really going to be a tremendous opportunity for people who are really ready to get that book going and see it to its end and set up 2015 to be a very, very special time. And having the chance to talk with these other writers, it was just so affirming for me that the love of words and the written word and telling stories and sharing your message with the world, whether it's through fictional characters or it's through information that can be useful to people, it doesn't really matter. That drive is still there, despite all these digital transformations that we're experiencing. In fact, I argue that it's even stronger now because technology has, in some ways, isolated us from those dining room table moments where people would sit around and just tell stories. Now people are so busy, or they're on the go, or families are splintered because of the activities children are in, or families are sitting at the table and they're all looking at their screens while taking a bite of food. There was a New Yorker cartoon not that long ago. It was brilliant. And the caption says something to the effect of, we're all watching TV together, only we're all watching different TV. And it showed a typical family room scene with mom and dad and some kids, and each one of them was on their own private screened device, whether it was a mobile, like a tablet or a smartphone, or a laptop. But no one was actually watching a regular television. They were all tuned in to whatever it was they were watching. And I know I've seen that even in my own house on casual nights when we don't sit down at the table. My son will be on his laptop and my daughter will be on her laptop, and of course, I'll be on my smartphone because I do love my iPhone. But my point here is that even though the world has shifted dramatically in the last few years, the desire for stories, for sharing, for connecting through the written word is still very much alive and well. And I've heard people talk about, oh, printed books are going to be a thing of the past. Someday, kids will not know what it feels like to actually hold a physical book. And I am going to go in the camp of, I disagree with that. I think physical books are going to continue to be around for quite some time. Maybe after my lifetime, physical books will be extinct. But even that, I don't think so, because I know I've raised my children to appreciate real books. And I know a lot of their peers were raised the same way. So it's really a matter of what our culture is saying. And of course, in the schools, there's a huge, huge initiative to make sure that our young people can read and write. And whether you're doing that on a screen or you're doing it with a physical book, the point is that you're interacting with ideas that are not your own, or you're creating something that you can put out into the world as a means of making a difference, as a means of being important, of having an impact, of making sure that what you are about matters. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, isn't it? That's one of the main reasons that I write. I love to write for the sake of writing. And when my writing can be valuable to an audience, the way I set out to do in this book, Personal Branding Secrets for Beginners, I wanted to write a book that had value, that was useful. And honestly, with that kind of intention, anybody could come to any writing project and put something out into the marketplace that touched the lives, even if it was just one other person. You have made an impact. And that's another big lesson that, if you haven't picked up on that yet in this podcast, is something that I love my guests to arrive at somehow, is that each one of my guests is making a difference in the world because of what he or she has chosen to do. And isn't that, at the end of the day, the greatest gift any of us can give? With that said, I'm going to say goodbye for this week's episode. Stay tuned. I will be back on pattern with some amazing guests in the coming weeks. In the meantime, remember, you can make a difference. You have something that you can say, whether it's through the written word or it's through an audio podcast like the one you're listening to today. I look forward to seeing you online. In the meantime, make it a great day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at MaryLouKaiser.com.